everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I've been married to a covert narcissist for almost 20 years. I'm separated from him now, and what I do with this channel is I use my real life experiences to get information out there to people about what narcissism really is, what it looks like, what it does to you, and what it does to your family. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what it's like to grow up as an empath and what being an empath means as an adult. What happens when an empath wakes up and realizes that they're an empath? A hint is your life will change. So people who are empaths, an empath is somebody that can feel another's energy. You can feel their emotions. You understand intuitively how someone else works, what they're about, if they're a good person, if they're a bad person. You can just sense it. You can't explain why this is. It's something you're born with. I consider it a gift from God. Now, it can cause a lot of problems when you're growing up. It's not until you're older and you recognize the gift for what it really is. And when that happens, when you become an educated empath, your world opens up. It's almost like you see the world in black and white, and then suddenly you can see the world in color and you recognize how blessed you really are. But before that, life can be very difficult, especially, and this is very typical, if you grow up in a narcissistic home. It's almost like a compensation, a gift, because you grew up so horribly. Suddenly you have this ability. You've always had this ability, but suddenly you recognize you have this ability to see the world in color, that life is not what you always thought it was. So I grew up as an empath. I grew up in a narcissistic home, and this is typical for many people who grew up empaths. You are the black sheep of the family because there's something different about you. You don't recognize that you're different. Well, I guess you recognize that you're different, but you don't know why. You just know that you are the one that is mistreated. You're never right. You're always a problem. You're always hearing about how you're a problem. This is your life. So you grow up abused, basically. Whether you're physically abused or not, you're very often mentally abused. I grew up an unhappy child. My father is a narcissist. My mother's codependent. So he ruled that family. Everybody had to do whatever he wanted. He was the king. We were his subjects. My mother couldn't be a mother because she was codependent. So all she wanted to do was make sure my father was happy. I often stepped out of line. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I wasn't the good little child of a narcissist. That was a problem, and I heard about it all the time. All I wanted growing up was to be loved. All I wanted was to have a relationship with my parents, and I did not. Now, I saw other people have this, so I knew my family wasn't normal. I knew it wasn't right, but that's all I knew. I knew something was wrong, but that is all I could go on because I didn't have the knowledge that I have now as an adult. So I grew up, and this is typical. This is what happens to lots of people. You grow up as an empath. You grow up just being aware of people in a way that other people aren't. So just like you can, so you as an empath can sense things from other people. You just intuitively know things. Other people intuitively know there's something different about you. They don't know what it is. They're not thinking, oh, this person's an empath. This person can understand me better than I even understand myself. They don't think of it that way, but there's something about you. There's something about you that's different, and you become the black sheep. And if you think about the black sheep, right? The black sheep is shunned because they're different. So if you think of a farmer who has all his white sheep, he uses their wool is valuable, he needs the white sheep. Then a black sheep is born, and the black sheep is different. Its wool isn't valuable. You can't dye that wool. That's just black wool. It's different. It's not what the farmer wants. He shuns that animal. The other animals shun that animal because there's something different. It's like albino animals, right? They're targets. They're the ones that if an animal is albino in the wild, it is the one that's going to be killed. It's going to be one that's going to be captured by another animal because they stand out. There's something different. There's something, wrong with that animal. That's how it is to be the empath. You stand out. There's something different. There's something wrong about you. You don't understand that it is a gift from God. It's actually an amazing thing to be an empath. You just don't know it then. It's almost like for anybody who's familiar with Harry Potter. He grew up, right, abused, feeling terrible about himself, but there was something different about him always, and his family knew this. Then when he discovered that he was actually a warlock, that he was able to have that he had magical powers, that he could do amazing things, his world changed and he was able to grow into the man he was meant to be. So that's how it can be for every empath. Just because you start off with a difficult beginning, once you know you're an empath, your world opens up. Suddenly you have magic at your fingertips. That really is how it is. But it takes a while, it takes time to understand this and to be able to live this new life. So you grow up an empath, you're in a narcissistic family, that's incredibly difficult for you. Then what happens, and this happened to me, I married a narcissist myself. That's all I knew. I didn't know I was an empath. I did know that I could just tell things about people, but I didn't know anything other than that. I think I probably thought that other people could do that too. So I married a narcissist, and then I was the dumping ground in my own marriage. My husband, like all narcissists, he was the boss. He expected me to fulfill a role. And I did. I did what he wanted. It wasn't until he started becoming worse and worse, and I suddenly was awakened. I consider myself to be awakened by God. I don't know, how other people have been awakened, but I suddenly could see the world in color. I suddenly realized I actually was the most blessed of everybody in my family. I never thought that way before because all I heard about was how I was a problem. I didn't have a happy marriage. I didn't have a happy home. I was never a happy person. Then I woke up and I realized as a shock to myself that I actually am the most blessed of everybody. I do a Bible group with some people on Thursday nights. And recently in the Bible group, the group leader asked people what the difference is between people that believe in God and people that don't. And as I thought about it, what really stuck out to me is that people that don't believe in God, if you don't believe in God, there's a limit to your life. You're not free. Somebody who believes in God, just to use this as an example. So I believe in God, and in my life, my day-to-day life, I never feel alone. Everything, I know there's something else out there. There's a lightness to my life because of that. If you don't believe in God, then there's nothing else out there. If there wasn't a God, you can be selfish because there's no point to life. There's nothing. I know this sounds absurd, but if you really think about it, if there is no God, there doesn't need to be any morality because everything is just random and chance, and you should just take whatever you can get. It's not a big deal to murder somebody because there's nothing else out there. Everything is just random. So I know it sounds absurd on the surface, but if you really give it some thought, there's nothing wrong with committing a crime. There's nothing wrong with hurting anybody else because your morality comes from God. That's all. So people will say, I've heard many people say, well, we don't need the 10 Commandments. We don't need the Bible. Everybody knows that you're not supposed to kill somebody. Nobody has to tell me not to be a bad person. But you do. It's because our world, people alive today, have grown up in the Judeo-Christian culture, or whatever religion you are. I am in America, so this is the culture that I have. But whatever culture you have, every culture has a religion. So you grow up knowing this already. This is instilled in you. It's not something that comes natural. It seems like it comes natural, but it's not. Somebody does have to tell you not to kill people. Somebody does have to tell you not to steal. Naturally, people will just do whatever they want because people can be very selfish. And if there is really no God, every single thing is random and it doesn't matter if I kill somebody. But because we grow up in a culture where this is indoctrinated into us, we think it's normal that everybody knows this. So it's kind of, if you look at it like with an empath, that's kind of how it is. You just instinctively know things that other people have to be taught, is maybe the way to put it. When you wake up, when you recognize that you are an empath, your world can change because now you don't just, before you're awake, you think about these things or you just know these things, but you don't recognize that this gives you a freedom that other people don't have. You're not limited by your own selfishness. You're not limited by your own emotions. You look at the world as a good place. You see freedom in the world. And when you wake up, when you're an educated empath, you can bring a narcissist to their knees, because nobody can compete with an educated empath. You are awake. You're aware of what is really going on. And for the first time in your life, you can actually step forward into the world and live an authentic life. You can live a life where you are free, where you understand goodness. When you understand that there are bad people, you recognize that you've been abused and it's not right, and you don't put up with it anymore. Because once you're awake, you cannot go back to sleep, because you are so aware. And this is what's happened in my marriage. I woke up. I suddenly recognized my own value. This is the most crucial thing I can say. You have value. When you are in a relationship with a narcissist, when you grow up in a narcissistic family, you don't see any value. There's no value to your life. You just look at yourself as a bad person. You know, you hear this growing up, and of course you're going to believe it. Why wouldn't you? If you hear from when you're a child every day how you don't measure up, how there's something wrong with you, how you're embarrassing the family, how you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you don't know any better. It's before you're educated, before you're awake. You don't know. You just look at yourself the way that other people look at you. But once you wake up, once you recognize, wait a second, this isn't true at all, your life will change. So I woke up, and now my husband can't compete with me because he is a narcissist. He is limited in his views on things. He can't function outside of his own limitations. He is in this tight little box. He's stuck in there because he's trapped by his narcissism. He can't see anything outside of himself. And I've tried to talk to him. In fact, my husband has recognized, he's told me, I want to be like you. I want to be able to do this and that. He actually got baptized because he saw how much my life has changed, but his heart wasn't in it. He went into it selfishly. He went into it thinking that God is like Santa Claus and that God will just give him things. He can't understand. He has to be able to give to other people. That truly the secret to happiness, the secret to a good life is focusing on other people, not in a way where you put yourself down, but where you recognize that what God wants you to do is take care of his other children. It's like, if anybody who's a parent can recognize this, if somebody does something nice for your child, you feel good about that person. I have 2 children. If somebody does something nice for my child, my children, it makes me feel good inside. It makes me feel positive towards that person. So if you do things for God's other children, you feel good. You know that you're doing the right thing. And then you get this inner happiness and your life can begin again. I wish I had known these things when I was in my 20s. That would have been so much better. Or even in my teens would have been better than that. And I don't know if you can feel that way in your teens or if you have to experience life first. But the reality is, if you are an empath, I know it can bring you a lot of pain because you really feel things. You feel things much deeper than other people. But it really, truly is a gift from God. And if you take that gift and use that gift, just like Harry Potter with his magic, you can make such a difference in your life. You can change everything for you, everything for your children. Thank you so much for listening to me speak. I hope I help somebody. I hope somebody understands what I mean when I talk about how when you are an empath, you can wake up to a beautiful new reality. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. God bless you.